So good to see you. We know each other a long time now through a lot of different careers, and I think that I'm going to let you introduce yourself in just a second, but I wanted to say a word or two about career transition because I sort of like to think that if I'm a professional at anything, it's career transition. I've gone from entrepreneur to university educator to corporate guy to angel investor to partner at a consulting firm and now to VC. And one of the things that I've really learned about career transition is that it's easier to jump on a running train when you're on another one. And what I like about VU very much, and today we're going to be talking about that, is that it's for people who are, there's a nice saying, which is if you want to get something done, give it to someone who has a lot to do. And we all have a lot to do. And for people who have a lot to do and are wondering how to do more or do the next thing, and for a lot of us, investing is very important. VU is really an opportunity. I had done in my two angel funds 55 investments. 2022, 23, 24, I had 0 exits from the 55 investments. I did 4 quarters at VU in 2025, and I had 6. And I can tell you that those 6 exits, nothing changed about the startups. It changed about the way I saw things. And I definitely, after about the first quarter, started to feel, wow, okay, I really understand what it is to be a VC. Now, on your side, please introduce yourself. You've occupied practically every seat in the radical innovation table. You've been a founder, you've been an operator, CDO. So why, when we connected, did venture still feel like a totally different world to you?
Hey, hi, Andy. Yes, can't agree more on what you just said. Look, I would say that founders, we and the founders build, the operators ship, and then the investor invest and decide, right? And so when I look in hindsight, I spent 20 plus years on the first 2 roles, and the third was a different muscle entirely. You're right. I had my share of scars in founding companies. I founded 4, exited 3. I built a venture studio, I co-founded a venture studio in New York. I became the first chief digital and AI officer ever in the global pharma world. I led some of the largest digital transformation in the industry. So by any measure, I should have known what I was doing. Frankly, I don't think I was, or not entirely. As an operator, you mostly optimize execution. As a founder, you optimize conviction, right? And as an investor, you do something a bit stranger. You deploy other people's capital into other people's conviction. So I guess to your question, the hardest part of moving into venture is at the end about unlearning the certainties that got you there.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because when I first was chatting with you, I think it was more like we just hadn't connected in a long time. And so we were talking, and I was thinking to myself, when you said you would love to really get into the depths of venture and really understand it and, potentially join, I sort of said to myself, I wonder, why does, this guy's done so many things. Why would he want to do that? And I think you said something to me about, you'd like to be surrounded by, people who are also have this kind of experience. So what was the moment that you realized that experience alone was not going to be enough?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I remember that exchange, Andy. I truly believe that in venture, experience is the entry ticket, right? But evidence is what gets you a seat at the table, right? And so it certainly took me longer than I would like to admit. I had been around startups for, I mentioned, 20 plus years. I had backed founders, I had advised firms, and still, honestly, I had no real evidence I could deploy capital with discipline and rigor, right? And I remember one of our cohort members who captured that in my mind perfectly. He had spent something like 20 years at the world leading bank. He had founded 2 companies himself, exited, and he told us, I've been connecting with founders, and I've been connecting founders to investors, but I knew I needed credibility to go further. And that gap between knowing the space and being trusted to deploy is a gap really nobody, or very, very few people talk about openly, right? Most programs you can see, most organizations claiming they can help you get into VC offer you programs where they give you frameworks. Well, a framework will never give you fire, right? At the VU venture partner and with the venture university program, just a data point, we source roughly 20,000 deals per year. And cohort members evaluate live deal flow at the same volume professional VCs do. And that is where evidence is built. I think knowledge tells you what to think, but evidence tells the world you can be trusted to act.
Yeah, well said. I think, what really struck me about, for me, was that, you can read as many books as you want about how to play tennis or how to play the piano. You can read and read and read. You'll never be a great piano player, and you'll certainly never be a great tennis player, until you get on the court, sit down at the keyboard and really, get on the court, take the racket in your hand and really start hitting the ball. And that's what I think sets VU apart. It is, you are treated, you're not just treated, you are a true venture partner in our fund, right? You are doing real investments. You're driving 200K to 1 million euro investments, and you're sitting in front of the investment committee and saying, look, I think we should put 500K into this deal. And I guess, you really better be damn committed to that statement, because the investment committee is not going to do it because you're a nice guy or anything like that. They're going to do it because everything makes sense. And I'm just wondering, so, from your side, what does a real investment decision actually feel like from the inside? And the first time you sat on a real investment committee with capital on the table, what changed?
And that's a big change. That's a big change. Sitting in investment committee like every cohort member can do is a big change. Because at the end of the day, my conviction, Andy, is that there is no spreadsheet. There is no spreadsheet that tells you when to back a human being, right? And at the end of the day, we bet on human beings, on founders with great aspirations, great vision. The first time in a real IC investment committee as a VC partner, I believe that 2 to 3 things happen at once. The data runs out, the room goes quiet, and you might realize the founder is not the only one who has to commit. As an operator, decisions are reversible, right? As an investor, they are not. You're locking in a position that you will only fully understand in 7 to 10 years. That's unique. I think another of our French cohort members said it best. I think he said something like, presenting a deal you love, because we fall in love with the deal we defend as VCs, right? Getting hard questions, oh, believe me, it's never personal, but it's tough love. Seeing it fall apart and going back to the founder, that back and forth taught me the most. And that is where conviction is forged. Not in the deck, not in a spreadsheet or a model, in the room, where someone you respect, like you, Andy, or our colleagues and partners, right, push you very, very hard back, and you have to decide whether you still believe, right? And this is not something we do like once a year. I remember meeting a candidate to the U who finally joined, and she said, look, I've been working in the VC world for 3 years, and I haven't yet signed any term sheet, right? Well, at VU, the cohort members make up to 7 investments per quarter, up to 25 a year, right? That is more reps in 12 months than many associates get in 5 years at the traditional fund, right? So back to your point, your good point. I believe that you don't become an investor in a VC, in a family office, in a CVC, name it, when you write your first check. You become one the first time someone you respect tells you you're wrong, and you write it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the point you made about the 7 to 10 years is really a big one. I mean, I just, you know, my first angel funds are approaching 10 years, and you know, I had lunch with one of my founders yesterday. I had another one on the phone the day before for a long one, and I had coffee with a third one. And I've been invested in their companies for 6, 7, 8 years, and we've gone through highs and lows. So you really can make a massive difference as an investor. And you know that there are a lot of people who think about this, right? And sort of say, "Oh, I'm going to do that one day, and you know, I'm going to get around that." And they've been waiting for years to make the move. What would you say to those people?
Mhm. Yeah, look, I mean, I posted that on LinkedIn, but I believe that everyone has a reason to wait before getting into venture. And at some point, I just ran out of reasons. All right. You mentioned the 50 plus investments that you did over the years, Andy. I'm not playing in your league. I was probably in the 25 to 30. I'm not saying I was wrong. I'm just saying that I didn't know then what I know now, right? And the reason why I decided to make that leap and join the venture world through Venture University is I think it was also well summarized by another of our colleagues and our friends. We have great cohort members, by the way, great people coming from great backgrounds. You know, he was coming from very large companies like Cloudflare, Samsara, and more. Great career. He was heading to an IPO, right? And one day he told me, well, I looked up and I didn't see anyone living the life I wanted, right? And that kind of sentence stayed with me. The waiting trap is real. People kind of circle the idea for years. They understand, or we believe we understand the space. We follow the deals. We know the terminology because, as you said, it's easy to go and buy 5 great books at the next bookstore, right? But portfolio never actually gets built. And perfect timing doesn't exist in venture. Nobody is ever fully ready. Investors I respect the most all started, I guess, before they felt ready, right? If we were ready, I guess we would have been before, right? But if you've been telling yourself you'll get into venture eventually, that eventually is maybe what's costing you, right? So I guess to your question, 20 years in the waiting room won't make didn't make of me an investor, but 12 months of doing it with Venture University and now as a partner does it.
Yeah, you know, I think that one of the things that's really valuable for me was it also, look, you know, everyone's at a different stage in their life, and careers and new things come along. I think very much so, maybe when you're really ready for them. But being part of VU allowed me to continue all of the things that I was doing, and at the same time genuinely have stakes in the game, you know, really, and you know, really do full blown investing from start to finish, not the kind of like, oh, I really like that founder and I think he's great and I'm going to drop, you know, some money into the company, but really at a depth of understanding all at the same time. And that's why I come back now to the moving train, you know, to be allow me to move over into doing that in a more professional way. So, I mean, maybe just last question, Bruno. What actually made the difference? What was the unlock for you?
Yeah, probably the unlock was to realize that anyone can get into venture, right? And the path out of something like Venture University is manifold. So we have people come from all potential backgrounds. You don't necessarily to be an MBA from Harvard and have a strong financial background. Obviously, the financial helps, but we have a ton of people around us. You know, it's a team sport that can also help. I think what we praise at the U Venture Partner and at the Venture University is people who have an operator background, an ability to judge business in a real setting, right? We value that, right? But anyone can basically make the leap. And then the path out is manifold, as I've said. You can go into VC, you can go into family office, you can aspire to be a better business angel. That's fine as well. That was part of my aspirations as well. You can join a corporate VC fund. I've been a founder. You can aspire to be a better founder. You know, I mean, like probably every single founder on planet Earth, apart from a few, maybe, I had something like 70 to 80 pitches per company, right? And at some point you say, well, maybe I can learn a few things. So you can come from very different background, you can get into venture, and out of that you can learn a ton of things that will help you for a ton of reasons. Now, what was the unlock? Well, I think the unlock was not more knowledge. It was, I believe, track record. It was a structured exposure and a real accountability. Structured and real. Because at the VU, you're not working on fake business case, you're working on real deals with real capital money, our VU venture partner VC money, right? With real entrepreneurs. That's a real track record, right? And I remember you and I, we worked with a cohort member who grew up in a family business. He called LED at the time and still call it a family office, right? He had already made direct startup investments by the tens, right? And after going through the U, he basically said, well, you kind of know nothing if you don't have someone to guide you through it, right? Experience without structure is expensive. And that's about that. Remember, 7 to 10 years before you know whether you have made the right decision. Experience without structure is expensive. And so that's not a beginner talking, that's an investor, and I consider myself as, kind of a serious investor in terms of the series of investment I've made, admitting the truth, right? VU, Venture University, is a residency for investor, not a course, not theory. I like to compare it a bit to the residency model that medicine decided to set up a century ago, right? It is also what made aviation work. And we finally have it for venture. It's a residency program, real deals, real capital money in a real setting, right? In 11 weeks per cohort, per quarter, you do what most aspiring investors take 3 to 5 years to do at a fund, if they ever get a chance to join a fund.
Yeah.
So
hey, Bruno.
maybe just to wrap up, I would say most programs hand you a textbook, right? Well, VU hands you a checkbook.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, I can imagine some of our viewers would like to chat with you. How might they do that?
Yeah, well, if anything in this conversation resonated with people watching us, don't wait for a warm introduction. Drop me a direct message on LinkedIn this week or whenever, right? I'm a partner with Andy and our colleagues in the VU Venture Partners, and we both contribute in driving Venture University. And I personally lead VU across Switzerland and France, but I'm involved across, and I'm happy to have a real honest conversation about whether this makes sense for your situation. I promise you it will not be a sales pitch, just a conversation.
Okay, great. Well, Bruno, thank you very much. For those of you watching, we appreciate the time you've taken. Think about what I said, that jumping on a running train is easier to do when you're on another one. You're all doing great things with your life. I think that investing can make a huge difference in the world, and we would love to chat with you if you're interested. You can click on our website, give me a direct message, or Bruno. We're genuinely interested in building a great fellowship of people who want to change the world by making the right investments. So thanks everyone for your time, and Bruno, see you soon.
Thanks, Andy. See you soon.